Hi, welcome to Let's Start Playing. My name is Henry, and today I'm going to be showing you how to play Unconscious Minds. Fantasia Games have released this beautiful tabletop simulator mod. This teach can be used for the physical version as well. However, you will need to read more of the setup rules, as Tabletop Simulator has a lot of scripting that completes the setup for you. In this game, I'm going to set up a 2-player game and give you an overview of how to play the game. First thing we'll need to do is select how many players we're playing with, what colours those players want to use, and whether or not we want to use minis instead of meeples. Let's go ahead and tick this box and hit start the game. This will now automatically set up the game for a 2-player game. There are some final areas of setup we do need to complete, however. So let's have a look from the pink player's perspective. Over here we have our playing area. This will consist of one playing board, one resource board, these patient tracks, and at the moment 0 patients. One of the final parts of setup is to draw one of our patients. You can have up to 2 patients that you're healing. However, at the start of the game you'll only have one, and once you've fully healed this first patient, you'll be able to heal 2 patients at once. To get your patient, it's recommended that you draw a random one in your first game. However, there is a drafting variant if you're interested in that. To do this, we need to come over here to these patients and pick one of the basic patients to heal. Patients come in 2 types. They're these basic ones and these advanced ones. And we just draw a random one from the stack and place it above our board over here, flipping it face up. Our patient will need to have a grief layer applied to them. To grab a grief layer, if we come over here and draw the top one of these cards, and we want to grab this and place it over the patient like this, so you can see all the hearts lined up along here. When you get your grief layer, you can move this track equal to how many hearts you see along this part of the board. This will track your progress healing this patient. We also need to draw a latent dream and a manifest dream for this patient. For the first patient you get, you need to draw these both randomly. First, pick a latent dream from this pile here randomly and place it above your patient. Then, draw a manifest dream and place it on top of that, overlaying the latent dream. So the manifest dream has to be healed first before you can heal the latent dream. If you wish to do the drafting methods, Tabletop Simulator actually lays out the cards based on your player count for this method. The player who is going second in the game, in a 2-player game, so the last player, would get first pick of their patient and dreams, and then the first player would get second pick, picking the full combination like this and placing it above their board. This method is probably easier, as you'll need to shuffle these cards back into the respective decks before drawing the random patient and dream. Now the last part of setup is to grab our starting tiles. You grab it matching your letter here, so in this case B. You can grab all the B tiles. The letter is indicated in the top left of the tile here, and lay them out. You may just want to randomly pick one for your first game. However, this will determine your starting location up on this board here for your character, as well as a bonus that you'll gain from activating a certain row. What you'll need to do is to slot this into one of the rows and place your starting figure, this figure here, on this location out on the board. Pick up this figure, we can look for that symbol, and that's going to be here. Once you've picked, you can discard these other 2. This also indicates your starting resources down the right hand side here. Resources are tracked using these beads on this board. To gain resources, you need to move your beads to the appropriate track on these boards. There are 9 different resources and they all come in 3 tiers. There's tier 1, tier 2 around this side, and tier 3. If you ever need to upgrade a resource, you increase its location on its tier, and these are the best resources around the outside. In this starting, this indicates we need 2 tier 1s, and you can tell by the shape of the resource as well as the icon. We need 1 fire and 1 green. Your resources are limited to how many pips you have here, So if all your pips are already on the board, you can't gain any further resources. Once you've set that, flip this tile over so it's ready to be used on its ability side. Once you've done that, you can flip this card over and you'll be ready to start playing. Now, Unconscious Mind is in essence a worker placement game. Your workers come in the form of these speech bubbles, and you can place more than one worker on your turn. The places for placing your workers are out on this board here. Some of these spaces are blocked in a 2-player game with these yellow icons. These will come out in a random formation covering spots on the board. So our current locations are this top row and these 3 spots, this row and these 3 spots, this row and these 3 spots, and this row in these 3 spots. These are 9 different actions, and these will always be the same every game. So let's get stuck into these actions and I'll explain things as we go. The first action we have on the top row here in the top left is to spend 1 coffee to gain one of these upgrade tiles from this stack on the left here. Each player has coffee tracked by this track here, and every player starts on 4 coffee. This is a resource you can spend to gain things like this upgrade, and you can also spend it on various other powers that you can do during your turn, which will be indicated up here. Give you an example. You can spend 1 coffee to avoid downgrading one of your resources if you're asked to downgrade. You can spend 2 coffees to upgrade a resource, moving up to the next tier, or you can move a resource between tiers on the same level. For every 2 coffee that you spend, do one of those 2 actions. You could also spend 3 coffee to gain a light bulb, and what light bulbs let you do is to you can add them to your workers and increase the number of workers that you send to a location without actually spending the workers. This will make more sense in just a moment. And another action you can always do is to spend the light bulb to move your ink jar 1 spot further, which will also make sense in just a moment. So this first action lets us draw one of these upgrade tiles from this column. We would simply spend 1 of our coffee and grab the tile. We would then need to slot this tile onto one of the locations on our board. Let's put it here, for example. Once you perform an action, you'll have 2 end of action effects that you can do. One is to move this inkwell. Let's talk about this one now, because this is what interacts with these tokens, so these can make more sense to you. So at the end of your turn, you'll be able to move your inkwell based on where you've placed your worker out on the board. So for this sake, let's pretend I put my worker out like this, with the speech bubble pointing up to this coffee cup. If I just decide to do the inkwell action at the end of my turn, I look along this line and find that I can move my inkwell 2 positions, and it has to be exactly 2, unless you spend light bulbs to move it further. In which case I'd move it 1, 2, and the inkwell moves clockwise around your board like this. Based on the location that you hit with your inkwell, you'll trigger some actions. This will let me activate this whole row. So first of all, I can gain one of these resources. And you can do these in any order you like. Next, I can spend 1 of these to upgrade 2 resources. So let's move that back here. And then I can upgrade 2 of my resources. That's what this up arrow means. I'm going to move 1 of these up to here, and another 1 of these up to here. Then for this one, I can spend any medium level resource indicated by the shape here and turn it into a max level bird resource. In that case, I could spend 1 of these, returning it back here, and then gaining 1 of these. But that could have come off any coloured row, not just purple, because this has a blank symbol in the middle. And that would be completing an inkwell action. Let's talk about the inkwell actions all the way around the board. So if it lands on any of these 3 rows, you'll get to trigger all of your upgrades in that row and gain the resource printed here. If you land here, you'll get to trigger your reputation track. That is related to this side of the board up here. And you'll find where your coloured reputation is. Let's remove some of these players that aren't playing in the game. That's something they could improve on the scripting. So you come over to this location here and you trigger your reputation track. The first thing you do when you do this is get the victory points amount listed here, so in this case I'd gain 1 point, then I would be able to trigger a reward under Freud's token on this track. The rewards are printed in these coloured areas here, so this one will let me do any one of these 3 actions, which I'll go into more detail soon. However, as Freud moves along, his actions will get more powerful. And the last spot you can move to is this top one. If you move it to here, you get to unlock another worker and add it to your supply. And the next time you get it to here, you'll have the ability to either activate a column of upgrades or unlock another worker. If you unlock a worker from here, you'd gain 1 victory point. And if you unlock a worker from here, you'd gain 2. And these will let you activate the different columns along your board. That is moving the inkwell, and this is going to be done at the end of your turn, and it's one of the 2 things that you can do at the end of your turn after playing out a worker. I'll discuss the other one in just a moment, but I'll finish going over some of the more obvious actions on the board. Looking along this top road, you can see all of these interact with these tiles above the board. So to place the worker here, I could spend 2 coffees in order to get one of these tiles, and I would immediately get to trigger the reward in the right hand side here. So in this top case, it would give me 1 of this resource and a victory point when I grabbed it. After grabbing it, you flip the tile over and slot it into your board just like the basic upgrade. And if I play it on this furthest right column over here, like so, I could spend 3 coffees to immediately take the action on the left and get the bonus on the right. After doing that, I would also slot it into my board just like the other 2. These actions can be accessed from above and below the action, and this matters because this is how far you move your inkwell on the right hand side. They also block worker placement spots for your opponents based on where you go, so if I put 1 here, my opponent can't also place 1 here. Moving down to this second row, this first action can let me upgrade 2 of my resources. However, this has 2 lightning bolts underneath, meaning I can do this action twice. If I wish to do this action twice, I would need to stack 2 workers on top of each other in order to take the action twice. Alternatively, I could use 1 worker and 1 light bulb, stack it on top of here, and take the action twice instead, if I had any light bulbs in my supply. When you upgrade resources, just know that you can't upgrade from the middle, you can only upgrade existing resources on the board. This action on the other side will let me play research papers and create these books over here. I will come back to these actions because we'll first need to draw research papers into our hand in order to play them. These 2 actions over here I'll get back to last. Another action we have down here, and this is going to be done 3 times if you place 3 workers, is to gain 3 of any of the basic resources. So if you do this 3 times, you can gain 9 resources. However, you gain 3 of the same. You can't mix and match these resources across each other unless you do the action more than once, in which case I could gain 3 greens and 3 purples. Over to the right of this action, we have these research papers. Based on how many workers I play here, up to 3, I can draw that many research papers from this deck. Adding them into my hand, and these are kept secret from the other players. These research papers will give you abilities on the bottom that you will get as soon as you play the card, and they also may give you symbols which will give you extra powers out on this board over here. To get these out of your hand, you first need to play these research papers using this action here. And whenever you draw a research paper, you draw them 1 at a time, and you can optionally choose to keep the research paper you just drew, or take the one face up over here. If you choose to take this one, you would return 1 of the research papers from your supply and put it there. And then on your next pickup, you could either keep the one you just picked up, or take the one you just put back here. So there should be always 1 in the discard pile of the research papers, as an alternative to the research paper you just picked up. So to play these research papers, you can place on this location here. For every worker, I can play up to 2 of these from my hand, and when you play them, you simply put them out in front of you and immediately get the benefit at the bottom. So for this purple one, I would gain 1 purple resource. For this green one, I could downgrade a resource to get a advanced green resource. Remember, I can spend coffee to avoid downgrading. So let's say I wanted to downgrade this, but not actually downgrade it. I could spend 1 coffee instead and just gain this resource. And this one would gain us 1 red resource. You may notice that one of these pips are in your color. You'll unlock more of these as you fill these columns. So if I fill a column or row, I unlock the pip at the end and can add it to here, giving me more access to more resources. These also have an additional use, which I'll go into soon. You may also have noticed there's a second action on this, which is to publish your work. To do so, you need to find one of these books that match the tomes that you have. So in this case, this one, and you can slot your work in this tome. It's going to be a little tricky to do on Tabletop Simulator. This is the best I can do on Tabletop Simulator. It's a little bit tricky. However, your tomes would then disappear and you'd lose all the symbols on your tomes. However, you'd get access to this book, which would immediately score you 10 points. To publish one of these books though, you need to take one of your colored icons from your board, and if it's on a research spot, too bad, you just lose that resource, and you need to put it on this spot of the book to limit the amount of books that you can publish during the game. However, as soon as I do this, I gain the 10 points, and I also gain access to these 2 symbols. Another neat thing about these books is players can use your works to create their own books. If my opponent wished to create this book on their turn, and be aware that all these books are available, you don't have to get them from top to bottom, he would come over here, and if he had a red work that he had already completed, he could slot this in on the right hand side, and then for the green one, he doesn't necessarily have to have it. He could give me 2 victory points to use my one, putting it under his book. The only exception to this is if your book has this written note symbol here. That means it can't be used by other players and must stay with your book. I get rewarded 2 points as indicated here for that player using my book. My opponent still receives them all the victory points as printed on here. We've now explained 7 of the 9 actions. Before we get into these 2, I'll explain the other action that you can do at the end of your turn. This is healing the patients that you have in your clinic. To do this, you'll need to heal each dream one at a time, starting with the top dream. To heal a dream, you need to spend the resources listed here. So in this case, I'd need to spend 1 max level green and 1 medium level purple, and I could score this dream. I would get to heal 2 points of health on my patient, and I would immediately gain 3 points for healing this particular dream. Also, you get a bonus if this symbol up here matches the symbol on the grief layer on your client. If these match, you get to heal an additional health on your client. Discard the dream to the bottom of the deck. I can only ever heal 1 dream on each of my clients. So in this case, I can't continue this action and heal this layer as well. Now something important happens when you get to or cross over this marker on your board. This is the grief leaving your client, and to do this, we remove this top layered card. We score points equal to this value here, and we get the rewards printed underneath, so in this case 1 coffee and 8 points. We then return this grief to the bottom of this stack. This patient is not fully healed yet, however we have removed the grief from this patient. Let's say on our next turn, we had managed to heal the patient fully, completing this layer as well. To complete this layer, I would require any gold resource, a gold fire, and a medium level resource of any type. So let's spend all of those, and I can heal this layer. This will immediately let me heal 3 hearts and give me 1 light bulb. I can only move this twice. If I heal more hearts than what's on the patient, I get 2 victory points per heart I overhealed. I then remove this card and put this patient into my collection. Basic patients like this one will often have an ability printed on the card here. This ability will let me get a reward based on an action in the game. This one lets me, whenever I put my inkwell to this location, I gain 1 victory point. I'm not going to explain all of these, but check the rulebook at the end for all of the explanations. They also give you symbols, and this one will give me 2 of this symbol here. I'll explain what they do shortly. I also get rewarded 6 immediate victory points for this patient, as indicated on the left here. Once you've healed your first patient, you can remove this card from the board. You then need to draw 2 new patients. To do this, pick which patient you want from the board here. All these patients come out with a grief layer pre-applied. So let's say I wanted to take this patient. I'll take him down here. I would then draw a latent dream from this pile and put it above the patient. And then I would get to pick a manifest dream from this face-up stack. Let's pick this one here. After selecting a client, refill this board here, put another grief layer on top of this card, and refill this board here. Because I've just healed my first patient, I immediately get a second patient as well, following the same steps. For now, I'm just going to grab one of these draft patients and slot it in over here. The advanced patients on the right here offer you endgame scoring conditions, giving you additional victory points at the end of the game, while the basic patients offer ability improvements and these symbol icons. Both patients reward victory points when you build them. Also, after collecting your patients, make sure you move these tracks to match the number of hearts here. In this case, this person has 7, and you can see there's a victory point printed under 7 here. I immediately score this victory point if the marker moves on top of it. So I would get 1 victory point immediately after playing out this patient. Now, at the end of my turn, I can attempt to heal 2 dreams if I choose the heal option and not to move the inkwell option. Let's come back and talk about the last 2 actions on this board. If I was to place this action here, I would get to move my character around this board here. I get to move it up to 2 spaces for each one of these I put out. I can either choose 1 or 2 spaces to move, or I can move my character to wherever feud is on the board, taking that action instead. Wherever you decide to stop, you'll need to take actions at that location. The actions are printed here on the board. Most of these symbols should be pretty common to you now. The number of times you can perform this action is equal to the following. If your character is there, you can perform the action once. For every one of the matching symbol that you have, you can perform that action again. So let's take a look at this action over here. I'm here. I have 1, 2, 3 of that action. So that gives me a total of 4, and 4 is the maximum time that you can perform one of these actions, as indicated by these lightning bolts here. So I can either gain 1 purple resource or upgrade 1 resource 4 times if I am in this location. Another thing that will modify how many times you can do an action is if feud is in your space, he will also count as 1 lightning bolt. So I will be able to perform this action twice because I'm here and feud's here. I should be able to perform it 3 times because I have 1 printed on my book as well. And this action will let me spend 1 of these medium purple resources in order to heal 1 health on one of my patients or gain a coffee. In regards to your patients are always healed if they get down to your bottom spot. It doesn't matter if they still have dreams remaining above them, they are simply discarded without reward. If I was to place 2 workers here, I could move my person 2 spaces, perform this action, then move it up to 2 spaces again, performing the next action. The action below here is similar, but this lets you move feud instead. You'll be able to move feud equal to the number of actions you place in this location, and these locations can be here, 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 or here, as indicated by the speech bubbles. This can be done up to 3 times, so I'd need to place 3 speech bubbles, or 2 and a light bulb, or 1 and 2 light bulbs, and I could move feud up to 3 spots around this board. Every time I moved Feud, I'd get to trigger that location in the same manner as I just explained with my character. Those are all the actions explained. There's just one more action I need to explain to you, and that is the recall action. Once you've placed out all of your speech bubbles, or on any turn which you wish to recall your speech bubbles, you can do the recall action and return all of your speech bubbles back to your supply. When you do this action, you will gain coffee based on how many different rows that you've placed speech bubbles on. Because I have 3 different rows of speech bubbles here, I will immediately gain free coffee. I could, if I wanted to, spend some of this coffee first before gaining it to upgrade a resource. I then return all of these speech bubbles back to my supply. After recalling my workers, I've got 2 options. I can either heal my patients as usual, I can't do the inkwell action, or I can claim a recall bonus token from this board over here. To do this, I would take the lowest recall token from here and place it onto my location. So in this case, the book location, and I could claim one of these rewards down the right hand side here. So in this case, if I placed it on the top one here, I would gain one of these bonuses and be able to slot it in on my board. That's what this symbol means. The second one will let me draw a research paper, and this last one will let me get a light bulb, giving me a bonus action. Alternatively, if I have enough symbols, I could place this token out on this board here. So if I had a total of 4 green faces and books, I could place it here. If I had 5, I could place it here, 6 here, 7 here. To put this out, I'd put this on one of these markers, score the number of victory points is indicated here, and heal the number of patient points is indicated here. Then I would need to place one of my colored tokens, so I'd need to unlock another one in this case, and draw it from my player board and place it above this spot here. This sets a limit to how many times you can do these actions. Also when you take these rewards, if you uncover the bottom step on this track here, in this case I would have gained 1 reputation point. Reputation point is this track here. This tracks your progress towards the end of the game. Whenever any player gains a reputation point, move Freud 1 space forward on this track. He is marching down this track, and when he gets to 10, everyone will get to finish the round and play 1 more round, and then the game will end. Also move your reputation up 1 stage if you unlocked 1 medal. If Purple gained a medal in the future, he would move on top of me here, and Feud would still move forward 1 step, meaning as players gain medals, Feud is racing further and further ahead of the players. And those are all the actions in Unconscious Mind. Just a few more things to talk about. First of all, there are these goal tiles out here. And these will be rewarded for the first player to achieve the certain goals. The first one is to publish 2 books. That will give the player 3 points and 1 research point. I'll also give them these 2 symbols permanently. This one is to get 2 of your insight markers onto district scoring spaces, which is these spaces out here. Once one player has 2 of their markers above a scoring marker, they immediately score this, giving them points, research icons, and symbols. That'll be the same for most of these. This one is to fill 2 of your columns with upgrades. Columns are these here, and if I fill up 2 of these, like so, I would then trigger that reward. As you fill these, you uncover the bottom symbol, and this will increase your reward for playing upgrades down vertically like this. Same with these ones over here. These will give you additional bonuses that you get when you play across like this, and also give you access to more pips, giving you access to more resources and more opportunities to make books and to play pips out on this board here, because you need to use the coloured pip. Also uncovering these bottom ones will give you victory points, and this one would even give you a research point if you filled this column. Remember, your upgrades need to be filled in from left to right, however, so you can't fill this column in first. This one is to cure 2 advanced clients. Advanced clients being these ones on the right here with this back. This one is to have 1 research of each colour in your play area, not in books. Once you achieve that, you immediately score this. This one is to heal a total of 6 patients. This one is to heal 3 basic patients. These don't refill or do anything like that. It's just first in, first serve. So the first person to achieve these will get rewarded with the bonus. One other thing we need to discuss is when Feud gets to this symbol here, it came up with a reminder for us. Era 2 reached. Please remove all era tiles from the market if any remain. It's saying we need to remove all of these era 1 tiles, which are the ones with the 1 symbol in the top left hand corner, and remove them all from the market now that we've reached era 2, leaving only these ones out. And whenever you remove one of these, you can click this handy refill button and this will fill in the market for you. There should always be 6 tiles out on this market. So this is a handy guide for remembering how many of these lightning bolts you get at the locations on the board. So you get one for yourself, one for where Feud is, and one for each of those symbols in your supply, including on your book, on these research papers, and on patients. When Feud reaches this location, game end is triggered. Finish the current round, getting back to the first player, and then when it gets back to the first player's turn, everyone will get one more turn. You'll notice the first player marker gets automatically flipped when you put Feud on here. However, in the rulebook, we are told to ignore these symbols as they have changed this rule. Once that round is complete, check who has the most points, and that player is the winner. There is some endgame scoring you need to take care of first. Check every player's advanced patients for their endgame scoring bonus. Like this one gives you 4 points for every unlocked speech bubble on your player board at the end of the game. Another final endgame scoring condition is on this research track. The player with the most reputation points will get 2 additional victory points for every patient and book that they've published. The player who has the second the most gets 1 victory point for every patient and book that they've published. You also score victory points for your unique location tags. For every different type of tag you have, so that's these tags here, you'll get to look at this reference chart and get that many points. So if you have all 6 different tags in your area, you'll get 15 points. You also get 1 victory point for any light bulbs in your supply at the end of the game. And that's it. You should now be ready to play Unconscious Minds. Hopefully this will help you get to play this game on Tabletop Simulator and help you make up your mind whether or not this Kickstarter is for you. This has been Let's Start Playing, and thank you for watching this video. Please ask any questions you might have in the comments below, and I'll add any rule corrections in the description below or rules I overlooked, so look out there for any rules that I have missed. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. It will go a long way to supporting the channel and help me keep making more. Thanks for watching.